We needed to heal as a community, so we decided to do this project, aka Bernard's Books, to carry on her legacy.
You're hearing students from Black Girl Magic of LVM Elementary in Madison, Wisconsin. They're presenting their work at EL Education's National Conference in Denver.
How are you guys feeling?
Later on in the episode, we'll hear from their school principal about their project and how it's part of a district partnership with EL Education. But first, let's get some context clues. This podcast episode is produced by EL Education, a national nonprofit that partners with educators to transform diverse public schools into hubs of opportunity for all students to achieve equitable outcomes. I'm your host, Katie Schneider Gumiran. In this episode, we're exploring why it matters for school districts to design teaching and learning around 3 dimensions of student achievement, which EL Education defines as joining mastery of knowledge and skills to character and high-quality work. You might think of it as a whole child approach. Some individual teachers or schools do a good job teaching to the whole child. But why is it so important for that to happen systematically at the district level? And how can educators make that happen? Our guests from districts across the country are going to fill you in. We'll hear from EL Education partner school and district leaders and an EL coach.
Learning is curiosity. And if we don't have that at a systems level, we're continuing to march the compliance piece down the road.
This is Pam Betton. She's the Chief Academic Officer of Sunnyside Unified School District in Arizona.
It's really easy for people outside of education to just want to focus on academic achievement. And I think oftentimes that is synonymous with test scores, particularly state test scores or national rankings. And while that is a part of it, that as a chief academic officer, that lands in my court, but that does not define or describe a child, a learner, or a teacher in that space. That is a measure. We have to pay attention to what those metrics are. But there's so much more about learning that matters. The shifts that we have to make in education have to be about a learner. It has to be about what in that space becomes equitable for students. Each student is able to experience what they need. I'm not talking about just giving a student resource. It's the classroom environment where their voice matters. It is understanding that the expectation of complex work exists for all. We pay a lot of attention to scale. We have learned to be very, very intentional about what we pay attention to and how we quiet the noise.
Sunnyside serves 22 schools, and Pam strives to get everyone on the same page, or solving the same puzzle. Listen for how the 3 dimensions help the pieces fit together.
We are all about coherence, a deep shared understanding. The beauty of the partnership that we have with EL is since day one, when we came in on the curriculum end of that, it has been a partnership, not a consultancy. It has been a partnership. So there is space for not just taking something that someone, even as good as EL is, just to say, here it is, and now, put this into your district, into your mix. The profile, if you will, of EL around the dimensions of student achievement with mastery of knowledge and skills, character, and high-quality student work. Those pieces in the way EL defines and describes them are easy for us to stitch together. So when we get to scale and when we start thinking about what does that look like, for us, it's not a new thing. They fit like a puzzle piece. It's sort of like, I guess I would describe it sort of as reciprocal guiding. It is our ability to have conversations and get pushed hard by our EL partners to think about things in a different way, and also to let us push and hear who we are and who Sunnyside is as an individual district, what they bring to the table as well. Those three dimensions makes my job as chief academic officer a lot more robust in our ability to say, how do we meet the needs to scale, spread, create depth, create ownership as we go into the schools, not just here's our big district poster, here's our big district sign, but what does that look like when you're doing the work, when you're living the work, when you're talking about the work? And that partnership piece is key.
That depth and ownership that Pam describes building across the district, it shows up in the way she relates to her EL partners too.
I mean, we have sat on many an EL call with our EL colleagues, all of us kind of banging our heads together like, what about this? We're stuck here, curiosity here, wonderings here. That's the richness. As district leaders, it's imperative that we operate in that way because we want our teachers, we want our principals to operate in that way so that they provide the space and the structured occasion for students to engage in learning in that way. So from this systems place, it's understanding that you have to have thought partners who are going to push you in your thinking, who are not going to just say, do it exactly this way. Here's the answer. Here's the recipe for what that is. It has to be conversations where you're grappling with that, you're rumbling around ideas and you're pushing curiosity and wondering, because that's what learning is. Learning is curiosity, and if we don't have that at a systems level, we're continuing to march the compliance piece down the road. When you have a thought partner, and EL is one of those thought partners that can help you move your thinking, your students benefit greatly from that.
Our students in Oaklan, they're resilient, they're collaborative, and they're critical problem solvers.
We've just moved on from Arizona to California, and now we're speaking with Jamilah Sanchez. She's an elementary literacy coordinator for Oakland Unified School District.
It is our duty, it is my duty to ensure that they have the knowledge, skills, and dispositions to improve their lives and their communities. And I would say especially for Black and Brown English language learners and students with IEPs. My role as a literacy coordinator is to ensure they have access to read, write, and communicate effectively, because we want to make sure that our literacy instruction is culturally sustaining and empowering to our kids. Students have access to standard-based instruction every single day. That our schools, all our schools, that's why it's important for us to drive this as a district, are informed by data and using data-driven instruction in order to differentiate and to meet the needs of our students. Our partnership with EL Education just has been really strong since the beginning.
Oakland Unified School District tried out EL Education's curriculum by piloting it with 7 schools.
And so we engage with EL Education, and we're really attracted to their 3 dimensionals of work, and just really align beautifully with our vision and mission of the district. And so those 7 schools, we saw some really great gains, academic gains from our students, which supported the adoption of the curriculum. We had foundational PD for teachers that was really intentional, and had amazing learning walks that were facilitated by our EL Education partners, and where we build our capacity to be at sites and be more and more of a more transformative type of learning walk than we've done in the past. These were learning walks where we were going into the classrooms as learners ourselves and engaging the teachers and how the experiences was feeling for them and getting their feedback. So we just saw EL Education partnership has helped transform us as we leaned into the work and in making sure that our students had access to the 3 dimensions.
What started as a pilot led to wider implementation and great gains. But what's next for Oakland and 3-dimensional learning?
We're really trying to go deeper within our implementation and our collaboration and partnership with EL Education. So right now our work is around advancing equity and going a little bit deeper from just the fidelity to integrity. And I think integrity is pulling out the 3-dimensional partnership in our work. We want to make sure that as a system level, there is alignment and there is a framework that is guiding all the different forms that operate and into the system. And I would say, for districts who are thinking about this, don't do this alone. I think that, EL education is open resource, but it's also not easy to navigate. So you need a team that has a deep understanding of how the system works and can create a space for district leaders to make meaning, to develop shared understanding, to also build capacity, and then know how to take this to the site level, which is the most important work, because we can make meaning as much as we want at the central level, but if we don't turn around and create that space for leaders at the site, and so that they feel like they have the capacity to help make the meaning for teachers, then our work is not in service of students.
So let's move from the central level to the school level in Oakland, where we're with Trina Jones, a teacher on special assignment at Burkhart Elementary, and Alexis Watt, her EL education coach.
Ms. Givani, just while Trina goes, she's going to lead most of this, but I'm just going to set us up.
You're hearing Trina and Alexis working together with teachers at Burkhart. They're digging into the EL education curriculum.
And we're going to ask, what are the priority standards in this unit? And then we're going to look at how the lessons build to that standard, right?
This coming project is going to help them a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
We work hard to think big picture about what do we want for the year.
This is Alexis, the coach.
And we are very planful about that based on lots of different kinds of data, walkthrough data, student data, teacher surveys, teacher conversations. And we make plans for the year, and then we really work hard to be narrowed in our focus of what we're doing at any one moment around the 3 dimensions of student achievement. So we work in cycles of inquiry. And so usually when I'm coming, we're launching a cycle or ending a cycle or both. And we're really thinking about, how did that go? What do we need to do next? What do we want to stop, start, continue? Right now, Trina and my cycle in various ways this year has been around collaborative planning and setting up collaborative planning structures for teachers. And then another, alongside that, we've also been really working on growing teacher leadership.
Alexis has been an incredible support to me and to our principal and to the whole school.
This is Trina, the teacher on special assignment.
Something that she models so well is character and culture is operating at all the different levels. So she's helping us do that just as a smaller team with me, her, and Dr. Gether. She's helping us do that on a scale with the ILT. She's helping us do that on a scale with PD. She's helping us do that on a scale with students. When we adopted EL, I was nervous because I didn't teach EL as a classroom teacher. And I think that the way that I work, that matters. It's really, really helpful for me because Alexis has demonstrated, I learn by watching other people do something and then thinking about how I would translate that to do it in my own way. She's coming next week, and we just talked about our agenda, and she's going to lead a team on Tuesday around a protocol, and then I'm going to do it on Wednesday, which she's going to be there, but we're going to kind of flip-flop who's lead, who's support. And so it's kind of basically good teaching principles, gradual release. It's she's doing it, we're doing it, then I'm going to do it by myself.
Listen to what Alexis models that Trina then models for other teachers at Burkhart.
Alexis helped us lead a high-quality work protocol. Every teacher brought 3 samples representing a spectrum of student work in their classes around EL. And we got to do a protocol where we had time to look at them and time to discuss them. It was doubly impactful because, one, it was wonderful to have teachers see how students grow. But then also, I think she did an amazing job of really facilitating a process and having us be metacognitive about what the process was and why it was important in the way that we looked at the work.
Trina found the 3 dimensions were already alive at Burkhart, but working with EL and Alexis made it more visible. Let's see how.
I started working here 5 years ago, and even before I joined, there's just a really strong culture of collaboration, informal collaboration, where teachers just help each other. And I think some of the systems that protocols that we've been using are to help not replace but add on for in addition to informal collaboration to have other more formal structures of collaboration. And so we made like a little bulletin board in the front of the school with students and staff interviewing people, partnerships of students or partnerships of staff who really work well together, and are two folks that work in the main office. So, it was like Miss Padilla and Miss Clark, and she was like, she's always got my back. And then Miss Padilla said like, she's the peanut butter to my jelly. And like, it was very sweet and wonderful, because I feel like that's something that we want students to celebrate and we want them to see modeled.
I think you're saying it's been modeled, but now you're like, with the more knowledge of the three dimensions, you're like it's always been there. You're lifting it up. Like your board is just saying, look, this is who we are. And sometimes that's what I feel like the three dimensions do. It just like, let's name, this is important. Collaborating is important. It's something we all do, and it's something we value, and it's going to make us better people and better at our work, for example. Can I just say, though, that board is also an example of high quality work, having those beautiful spaces. So that's a great example of also the overlap. It's impossible to do EL well and like not have that overlap. You know, sometimes it's like we stop in a planning, like, are we talking about character? Is this mastery, knowledge, and skills? And it's like, well, there's a reason those rings are intertwined, right? They support each other.
Please join in. If you don't remember, Miss Bernard loved the color purple, the scent lavender, and books.
Remember Black Girl Magic presenting at the EL National Conference in Denver? Let's talk to their principal, Sarah Larson, with the backstory of how they got to the conference.
My instructional coach and I attended the national conference in Chicago. The conference opened with student speakers on the stage. We looked at each other and we said, that is our end goal. We want our kids up there. We want our kids presenting to the world about their work. And we're well on our way, and we can make it happen. Our project for Better World Day this past year was a project in honor of one of our teachers who passed away. And she was an influential staff member. She was the only Black educator in our building, and she did a lot of work to ensure that our students of color especially saw themselves in their books and in their classroom and in everything they did. And so it was really challenging for our students who had her, and even students who didn't have her, to kind of grapple and feel the feelings of her passing. And so as a school community, we were talking about what can we do to both honor Miss Bernard, to carry on her legacy. When she retired, which she was supposed to do that year, she wanted to find a way to support young Black moms in creating literate environments in their homes and preparing their kiddos from birth to age 5. We have a group of students in 4th and 5th grade who have titled their group the Black Girl Magic Group, and it is made up of our Black students in 4th and 5th grade who come together in a space that is safe for them. And through those meetings, they talked about Miss Bernard. They designed this beautiful mural for her in our library so that we all remember her. And then they started thinking about how could they carry on her legacy. This project really is a demonstration of all three dimensions of being a learner and that whole child approach. You know, they had to use their skills and knowledge to research where they might send letters looking for donations. They had to write the letter. They had to address the envelopes. They talked a lot about being leaders. It was their ideas and their voices that created the project and what they wanted to include in these bags. And then they had to prepare a presentation when they went to donate the literacy bags that they created, and they got up in front of a group of adults, including hospital personnel, local news reporters, district leaders, parents, community members, and they shared their story. I think Bernard's books is kind of a jumping point for our staff to say and to see, look at what these girls did, And now what can we do to give all of our students these experiences in the classroom?
LVM was inspired by what they saw at EL's national conference, and it spurred them to do more three-dimensional work, which in turn inspired others. And now they're going to be a lab school. Listen to how the lab school structure will spread more three-dimensional learning across Madison Metropolitan School District.
So we have an EL coach that comes and visits with us, gets to know our building, helps us to set our goals and refine our practices so that eventually we will be like a demonstration site where our teachers and our principals and anyone in our district can continue to come over to see EL or see instruction in person, to see it taking place, to have those reflective conversations and plan for what they're going to do when they go back into their buildings. Teacher to teacher learning is really positive. And I think it really leads to kind of that collective efficacy and that growth within teachers because they know that they're in the same work as the people they're learning from. Be the cheerleaders of change. Really sit back and think about what is currently happening in their schools and district around student identity, their skills, the criticality, piece of learning, and then just how are we uplifting and bringing out the genius of our kids. And if we can't see that yet, then maybe this is the right next step, is to dig in and to try something new. And it will be hard, it's bumpy. But like I said, if you're the cheerleaders for your staff and you jump in with them, it can be done. And in 4 years, maybe you'll be up on stage with your students doing the Better World Day project and opening up the conference.
We challenge you guys to listen to the voices of the kids in your school and know what your school community needs, like our school listened to us.
Thank you for joining us on this journey from Arizona to California to Wisconsin to learn about how three-dimensional or whole child learning can happen at the district level when educators and students share a deep understanding of how that can be, and when the supports are in place to make it happen, together. We've heard examples of this in action from data-driven strategic planning to transformative learning walks to complex student projects and even high-quality bulletin boards that celebrate school culture. Thank you to all of our guests who took us on this journey: Pam Betton, Jamilah Sanchez, Sarah Larson, Alexis Watt, and Trina Jones. I'm your host, Katie Schneider Gumiran. And special thanks to Marcus Hung, Shanta Lightfoot, and Nate Martz, and to EL staff supporting district and school leaders in order to scale three-dimensional and equitable student outcomes. If you'd like to learn more about partnership opportunities with EL Education, visit eleducation.org/partner-with-us or send an email to salesinquiry@eleducation.org.